So that Jesuit organization was the Knights of Columbus. The next one is the Knights of Malta. Now, the Jesuits had to take an oath, and before they took the oath, the person that was taking the oath from them, they told them that, they gave them their instructions before they took the oath. One of the instructions that they gave them was that they had to pledge their allegiance to the Pope and to the Church. So even no matter where it is that they are, wherever it is that they worked, because the Jesuits had to go into other religions, they had to go into other governments, but the main objective was my allegiance to the Pope, and whatever the Pope wants me to do, that's what it is that I'm going to do. So if you go online and you read the Jesuit oath, you're going to read that they, in two instances before they take their pledge, they're reaffirmed. The person that's the superior officer, the one that's inducting them into the order of the Jesuits, is telling them your allegiance is to the Pope and to the Church, your allegiance is to the Pope and to the Church. So they know who their master is. This is just a small section of the oath of the Jesuit. And it reads, "You have been taught to insidiously plant the seeds of jealousy and hatred between communities, provinces, states that were at peace, and incite them to deeds of blood, involving them in war with each other, and to create revolutions and civil wars in countries that were independent and prosperous, cultivating the arts, the sciences, and enjoying the blessing of peace, to take sides with the combatants, and to act secretly with your brother Jesuit who might be engaged on the other side, but openly opposed to that which you might be connected, only that the Church might be the gainer in the end, and the conditions fixed in the treaties for peace, and that the end justifies the means." So what they're saying here is that the individual who takes this oath, his job is to make sure that whatever community, whatever town that they're sent to, whatever state that they're sent to, whatever country or government they're sent to, there needs to be some kind of chaos and division. That's what they're sent there to do. And if there will be a brother Jesuit, so that was one country versus another country, or let's keep it here. Let's say we have white versus black. There'll be a Jesuit on the black side and there'll be a Jesuit on the white side, and they're both working together to create discord between the white and the black. Now, the reason why this is done, and this is said in this oath, the reason why this is done is because an order can be gained out of the chaos. It says there at the bottom of the oath, and that in the end, the Church will come in and bring the solution to the chaos that's happening. And then the Church will be seen as the hero. So the papacy will sweep in and say, we have the solution to the issue that the Jesuits created. Now the Church can now take control of that community, that province, that state, that country, and people will begin to follow after them. All right, so one of the situations that were like this, where prophecy speaks about this, is Revelation chapter 11. In Revelation chapter 11, we read about the beast from the bottomless pit. Now, a bottomless pit represents a form of nothingness. It refers to chaos and anarchy, the state of the world, the world in a certain time. The Greek word for bottomless pit is abyssos, and you see the word abyssos in many areas in the Bible. It means abyss. The first time you see it is in Genesis chapter 1, where it says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth, and the earth was out without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. The word deep meant abyss. The world was in a state of anarchy. There was no order to it. It was without form, it was without void, until it was said, "Let there be light." And light showed up on the scene. Now, the sun wasn't created yet, so who was that light? Well, it was God in the form of Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ showed up on the scene, and he was that light in that area of darkness, and that ended the anarchy, that ended the chaos, that ended the confusion, which is why in John chapter 1 it said, and light entered the world and the darkness comprehended them not. It's referring back to that. But when Jesus Christ came onto the scene, it was a state of a bottomless pit. It was a state of darkness, and he entered into the world, but those people who were in a state of darkness could not comprehend that he was Jesus. And we're living in the same kind of time period right now. We're living in a bottomless pit kind of time where there's anarchy, chaos going on, And there's light that's out there, but the people who are in the church are rejecting that light. They're not comprehending it. And if you're trying to speak in regards to that light according to the situation, they're pushing you out. Well, this is what they did in Revelation chapter 11, which speaks about the French Revolution. The beast that came out of that time of chaos that was happening in the world was the country of France. What happened was, we had the rich 1%, which were the king, the queen, the nobles, the government officials, all these rich individuals who taxed vehemently the poor and became rich off of the backs of the poor. The banks cheated the working class, who were most namely farmers, and in doing so, their farms went into foreclosure. They lost their farms. There was a famine. There was no food for them to give, but the rich were eating lovely. If anybody has seen the Hunger Games, that's exactly what it was. It was the rich that lived rich, and then the other people that lived in the other quarters, they lived like that. The Hunger Games is just the French Revolution. It is the French Revolution. So what happens is, we have a chaos that's about to break out. So we had, the rich and the poor. The rich, getting rich off the back of the poor. You have the 1%, living well. You have the lower class not living detestable. We had people losing land because the banks were cheating out of them. The financial system was cheating the people. We had poor education, terrible education for the lower class. And we had the militarization of the police. The police were militarized and they began to oppress. They were used to oppress the people. And because the people became oppressed, they began to get angry and they wanted seeds of revolution began. So we have this Jesuit called Adam Weishaupt. This Jesuit is the individual that incited the French Revolution. And remember, the Jesuits are supposed to bring discord and revolution in areas that they are put. So he began he started this revolution in 1793. So what happens? The people revolt, they go up, they kill the king, they kill the queen, they kill off all these nobles, they bring them to guillotines and they chop their heads off. They chop so many people's heads off that the streets of France were just flowing with blood. The army and the people were fighting with each other, the police and the people were fighting each other, and blood was flowing through the streets. It got to a point where the people were able to take over France, and what they did is they threw out the Bible. They said, you know what, we don't want to be run by the Bible anymore. We're going to be run by reason. So we reason that if we run the country this way, then the country will be okay. So when they excluded the Bible, this is what happened. The financial system that they put in place, they got greedy again because there's no moral system there. There's no moral standing there. It's just atheism. There's no morality to atheism. It's your morality. So whatever you think is moral, whatever you think is right, you're going to do that. So they began to cheat the people again. We had homosexuality went on a rise. There was a battle between marriage and there was a battle between homosexuality and what was right. So there was an issue between morality and homosexuality. And they went into a depression. France went into an economic depression. So this revolution caused chaos, it caused disorder. This land is in a bottomless pit. There was disease that was going on at the time. France was getting hit by disease. Everything was happening. Who do you think came and solved the situation? The Pope now comes and says, I have the solution to the problem. This is what we're going to do. We have land in France. What we're going to do is we're going to sell our land, take the money, and pay your debts, and bring you out of the economic depression. And they said, if we do this for you, we have to be the church of the country once again. So they said, all right, you can take the seat that you had again, and you can be the church of the country once again. So the papacy gets their seat back in the country again, and they're seen as the heroes. They're the ones that incited everything, and now they're seen as the heroes. And that's the same situation that we're facing today. The 1% are getting rich off the backs of the other 99%. They're giving the 99% terrible education, terrible healthcare, in any form or fashion, they're just oppressing the people. The police are being militarized and also member of the CIA said that the police departments are purposely hiring people who fail IQ tests, who show on their IQ test that they're incapable of being insensitive and are quick to anger and wrath. They're hiring them over people who pass the IQ test, who show that they're humane, who show that they have patience. They're purposely doing that so that when all these police shootings happen, they'll be able to militarize the police because it's going to cause revolution. They'll be able to militarize the police.
But what's happening instead is that
So we're living in the same kind of time period where where what happened in the French Revolution is what's happening to us today. The 1% is getting richer off of the 99%. They're giving them poor education. They're giving them poor health care. They're giving them poor forms of food to eat, GMO food, things that cause you to get sick. The police, and we talked about how the police will be militarized. The police are oppressing the people. So it's inciting them to this form of a rebellion. So now they have this seed of rebellion to happen. Sister White actually tells us that this is exactly what's going to happen. When we read Ecclesiastes chapter 1, verse 9, it tells us that there's nothing new under the sun. The things that are happening now have happened already. And the reason why we don't know about it is because when one generation passes, they don't study on the generation that came before them. And then when generations come after that, there's no study of the previous generations. So the more generations get passed from a certain situation, when you get hit with an instance that already happened before, you have no knowledge of it. So you don't know how to deal with that situation, so you don't know how to attack it. And that's what's happening with the church right now. We have a lot of people in the church, especially young people, who don't know how to attack the situation, not knowing that it's already happened and God has put a system in place for it. And this is why we suffer for lack of knowledge. And it's not because we don't understand what the verse goes on to say. It's because you have rejected knowledge. And because you have rejected knowledge, I will reject you. We have the Bible. We're able to read the Bible, we're able to study the Bible, but when we don't do that, we don't see these things and we don't know how to act. And when it comes to that time of calamity, when what do I do? What do I do? Or when somebody's saying, this is what I should do, this is what you should do, this is what you should do, God is just going to sit back and laugh because I gave you this. Many of us had 15, 20, 30, 40 years to study this stuff, and we never studied it. Now when the time comes for us to start living what it is that we've been saying that we are, it's come time to live the Word of God. It's come time to really be Christians. We don't know what to do, or we're acting out of emotion. We're acting out of anger. So she says in Education, page 228, the very same thing. She says that the same thing that happened in the French Revolution is going to happen in the last days. At the same time, anarchy is seeking to sweep away all law, not only divine, but human. The centralizing of wealth and power, the vast combinations for the enriching of the few at the expense of the many, the combinations of the poorer classes for the defense of their interests and claims, the spiritual unrest of riot and bloodshed, the worldwide dissemination of the same teachings which led to the French Revolution, all are tending to involve the whole world in a struggle similar to that which convulsed France. So the same thing that she's saying, the same thing that happened in the French Revolution, the rich getting rich off the backs of the poor. The poor looking to the people who are being oppressed, looking to seek their own for themselves, looking to riot and to revolt so that they can get what it is that they need for themselves. The spiritual unrest that was there as well. The church is facing a spiritual unrest right now. The same things, all these things that happened in the French Revolution are going to happen not just in America, but in the entire world. That's what's happening right now. We're on the brink of a revolution. These things are not going to get better right now. These things are actually going to get worse, and people are going to revolt. When we see like riots in North Carolina or riots in Baton Rouge or riots in these areas, we're seeing like a small taste of what's yet to come. Not only did she say it's not just in America, but it's in the entire world. This situation, the media only shows us what's happening in this country. When you go into other countries, you will see that the same thing is going on in those countries. Sister White actually says that China, India, Russia, and America are going to be the main countries that are going to have these issues. I came back from India a couple of months ago. These issues are going on there, where the same thing. The rich are getting rich off the backs of the poor. My wife and I were actually in a terrorist attack because they were trying to kill off a political leader who's oppressing the people. If you see there, it's worse than it is over here. This is nothing compared to what it is that they go through. Those people make like 10 cents for doing the same kind of job that you would do. Or for teaching, if they make 50 cents, they would smack their boss and quit and go take that 50 cents and go open up their own business. It's like they get paid so little and they have absolutely there's so little that they can't buy food. The people that I went to see is people who eat rice and sauce, curry sauce. But that's what they eat. That's what they eat 24/7. Rice and curry sauce. They can't even afford to get fruits. Because we came there, they wanted to get fruits, so they pooled their money and brought some fruits over so that we could eat fruits. But they eat rice and curry sauce every single day because they can't afford it. The education that they're getting is not quality education. Like they're purposely keeping the people down while the other people who live, it's crazy. I went to Indonesia. It's the same thing in Indonesia. There's a part of Indonesia that's just poor, run down, and then there's a part of Indonesia that's like you're in America. You're in America. I'm walking into Home Depot and Lowe's and into malls, and there's a side that lives wealthy, but then there's a side that nobody cares about, and nobody does anything for. And it's the same thing in China. We're walking in the streets in China, and it's like Manhattan. But then there's also a side that nobody cares about. We were taking a train and we're looking, and we're like, yo, people live like this? There's like people living in the mountains, and it's just terrible. It looks like a prison. The people live like they live in a prison. But then there's a side where all the rich and the upper class people live, and they do it on the backs of the poor. So the whole world is facing this situation. It's not just America. And revolution is going to sweep the entire world. I saw the revolution in India. And while we were over there, they were bombing Baghdad. They blew up a bridge somewhere in India. So revolution's happening over there, and revolution's happening over here. Revolution's happening in Russia. Revolution's happening in China. It's happening all over the world.